So I'm going to first turn to Denise and Jose for the first topic. And the first topic is going to be about notices. And so, I mean, 3 years ago, you were doing your notices the old way, which was everybody was making their own. And then in 2017, uh, notices were formalized. We came forward with the preliminary notice 35 days before, the general notice 15 days before. And then there we are. Suddenly we turn into virtual mode. And so are people adapting their forms and how so? So maybe I'll start with you, Denise. What kind of problems are you encountering with
Well,
the notices?
I always thought that even before virtual meetings, a lot of these notice packages that condominium corporations had, and a lot had to do with the management companies, were just way too large. There was too much information. Owners don't read them. But now that we've gone the virtual way, it's a real opportunity for management companies to now review their entire packages. And I actually did a blog post on what are the essential items in a notice package. What I am finding is if our clients give us a notice package to review, there's a lot of errors. And I think it's because they're using the old package without making it virtual. So now it's a virtual meeting, but it takes more than just putting a virtual meeting notation in it. You have to think about registration. There's no more, depending on which service provider that you use, it's not a half an hour before the meeting that you register. It could be 2 weeks ahead of time. So those are the items that you have to look at. And also, how do you handle proxies? Again, depending on how you're doing your meeting, you have to think about registration of proxies. Are they handled, directed, undirected? When do you register them? Something to really think about.
Right, right, right. And in fact, I think that even the proxy, you may want to ask yourself the question of whether or not you want to even put one in the package. Maybe proxies are, a creature of the past. And maybe they're not maybe we don't want them in this new world. I'm not sure. Well, maybe we never wanted them to begin with, but
Yeah,
that's a different story.
that's a great point, Rob, because a lot of managers say, don't you have to put a proxy in your package? No, you don't. It's not in the Condominium Act. You have to accept a proxy, but you do not have to put it in your package.
Right. Now I'm going to turn to Jose, but in the meantime, Denise, if you want to put in the chat line the link to your blog about what to include, because I was looking for it, but I couldn't quite find it. I was doing two things at once. So Jose, are what's your experience? Are people sort of are corporations embracing virtual meetings? And if so, what kind of sort of changes do you have to sort of implement, mainly with respect to notices?
Yeah, I do think that for the most part, people are embracing the concept. Some of them are tentative, for sure. People who are more, who are used to the social aspect of an AGM, who enjoyed coming to the venue, to either to the party room or to the meeting hall where it was being held. That kind of stuff is gone. But for the most part, it seems to be going well. What I've found is you have to, and it speaks to what Denise was saying, the manager's knee-jerk reaction when you've been somewhere for several years is to pull out the package from last year, change the dates, make sure the venue is in the same location, and off you go. You add your reports, change your directors, and away you go. You can't do that this year. It's not the same package at all. The notices are different. The information is different. Certainly, there's a lot of stuff that didn't used to be in the package that has to be there now. You have to comfort your owners and let them know that they will be able to register and how they're going to register and where that link is going to come from and how they're going to vote. All that information, you have to kind of manage expectations and give them this information, at least this year, in a way that is more fulsome that you might in the future. Definitely, I think there's still there's a use for proxies, but gone are the days where you want to staple that proxy as the last page of your package so that they can tear it off and hand it in. You don't want to do that. If you make it that easy to hand in a proxy, they certainly will. Because between handing in a physical proxy that they understand and the new world of registering online and doing that kind of stuff, they're not going to. So you're shooting yourself in the foot if you make the proxy too easy to
Right,
access. But I do
right.
think you do have to have it where there's an honest to goodness need and an inability for this person to participate online or by telephone for a variety of reasons.
Right, and you raise a very good point that if you make it too easy for people to go back to their old ways, nobody will come and transition to the new way. No one will do it. So you kind of have to tempt them a bit and try to. So for instance, something that I've seen you've done recently is when somebody as a knee-jerk reaction asks you for a proxy, you sort of tempted them with the electronic ballot first and say, well, give it a try, and you kind of cajole them and explain it to them, and more often than not, I would suspect that they would find the proxy far, the ballot far easier than the proxy.
It's an education process. If you coach them through it without telling them how to fill out their ballot, of course, but if you help them register and they become more secure and more confident in their skill to do that, then the need for the proxy kind of eases.
Right, right, right. And something else that you've done that I find works very well is that you don't just limit your communication to the prelim and the general notice that either comes out through a service provider. You actually, between these and leading up to the AGM, I've seen you send emails where you sort of like, get the troops all excited about it. You remind them about the meeting. You send them again that link to register if there's a link, because the link is otherwise lost in the paperwork. And so and you usually get a good turnout when you do that. I've noticed that.
I do. Well, if you've read my blog, you know I always sign off as the den mother, and I honestly am the den mother for all of my for my owners. And I find it helpful if you send a reminder. People will get an email, they'll look at it, they go, yes, I'll do that this evening. They set it aside. 27 other things come in, they forget about that. So you have to remind them. Keep making the information easy to find. If you tell them to go back in an email from 20 days ago, they're not going to find it. Give it to them again. Make sure they have the link. Tell them how they're doing. Tell them if you have, if you're doing well for quorum. Let them know. They want to be involved. They want to know this stuff. Make the information available.